Hey everybody, welcome to another R show, which is a weekly show at this time. And tonight I have with me Jim Bennett, the Emperor of Fun.
Hello. How's everybody doing?
And Jim, why don't you let everybody know a little bit about yourself and where they can find you and stuff like that before we really get into the topic of board games tonight.
Yeah, it's I'm Jim Bennett, the Emperor of Fun. I call myself that because when I applied for my business license in the state, they asked for my title. I didn't want to give a regular president or CEO or manager, whatever. So I'm the Emperor of Fun, and they actually printed that on my business license. So that's why I call myself that. I sell board games, toys, video games when I can find them, but I also sell clothing on eBay, electronics, basic anything really. I mean, I sold printer ink today, so anything that I can make a buck on. But I really do focus on toys and games because that's what I've liked all my life growing up. That's where I have the most knowledge.
Okay. So, and there's a link is down in the description for his YouTube channel if you haven't subscribed to him yet.
Yep.
And and there is Golden Finger Picker with his calling you
Yeah, butt pickle. That's a new thing I'm trying to trend. Any bad buy is now a butt pickle. So you'll see every haul video or every sales update video. I'm going to throw in some butt pickles, and we'll just have a good time with that phrase. So.
Yeah, I saw you mention that once in one of the shows. I'm like, when you're in the chat, I'm like, oh, Jim's having one of his friends fun times again.
Yeah, well, that's actually something that started on a recent show, a recent Profit Talk show, which is on Monday nights. Just the conversation got into couples using the bathroom at the same time. So I said, somebody mentioned, I think Tristan, Dusty's wife, mentioned turtle head, and I came out with butt pickle, and so it just kind of became a thing from there. So it's all in fun.
Okay, my very first question for you, before I get into talk about the shout outs. I know you, as you said in your video, I watched it, a little bit of it, and you were talking about you're going to be giving a lot of detail.
Yeah.
So, what got you into the niche of board games?
Well, it's just something. Board games have always been something that I liked. I always had a ton in the house growing up. And when I decided to leave the corporate world and get into reselling online, I decided to go with what I know. That's the biggest thing, sell stuff from around your house, then sell the stuff that you know the most about. So that's been toys and games for me. When I first started scanning for Amazon, I was like, holy crap, Mousetrap really can bring in $40. Like and I can buy it at a thrift store for $2. Why am I not doing that? That's, easy money to me. I know the games. My wife is really good at going through and checking them, which is the part that I hate. And, it's easy for me to pinpoint games that are good to sell. Even though I do still scan every single game that I buy. So.
Okay. Well, I already shouted out Golden Finger.
Mm-hmm.
We got Nellie, who was my guest last week. We got Berta Bell, Angie, who is going to be watching from the bed, so she won't be in chat. Barbara Carlson, hello there. Jim Detmeyer, Andres Acosta, hello. And we got, of course, Yard Sale Hunter, who is one of my admins when he's not in bed, since it's I'm starting about his bedtime or close to it. And Brian, the Albatross. We had Harley Woman, Dawn. So welcome everybody. Of course, we're on the first name basis there. Going, maybe you know that. And we got Joni saying hi to me. So hello there, Joni. If you have any questions, please click the question mark. Oh, and I guess I missed Coco. Oh, yeah. Oh, she's eating like usual. But, um, my next question I have for you is, what have you found to be the most popular for for resale for a game for yourself?
I don't know. It's a good question. Game of Life has always been good. Anything before 91 has always been good. Mousetrap. I sold 2 mousetraps this week, and they both sold before. Monopolies, depending on the versions, especially like Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, any alternative versions. Junior versions of games are usually good. Yeah, I mean, that's really, there's so many.
Well, like we were saying earlier before the show started, how last night during Chad and Ronnie's show, they really got into the board game topic a little bit, and I was like, it's gonna be a good topic for tomorrow.
Right. Yeah, there's so much stuff to talk about games. I mean, you could talk about piecing games out, about, you know, what games are hot right now, what games sell for the most, what games kind of different seasons sell better. Like games revolving around baseball are going to sell really good right now because baseball season's starting up. So something.
Well, we do have our first viewer question from Nelly, and she wants to know. Okay, wait. Wanted to know, how do you ship the games? And that was going to be one of my questions, because like I told you before, I'm shipping at least most of my games priority mail, and if they're like the long boxes, I put them in the game box. So pricing wise, I was going to ask how that works, but how do you ship your games?
My games, I send every game I get into Amazon. So I'm a big Amazon FBA guy. So everything goes to Amazon, and that's where I sell probably 80 to 90% of my games. So they take care of it all for me. The games that I do post on eBay are cross-listed from Amazon, and then I do a merchant fulfilled order. So I don't have to worry about shipping them and getting the boxes and shipping, you know, everything free. I don't have to worry about all that, because with Amazon, I'm shipping my games between $5.85 and $11. So before I list on eBay, I check my Amazon shipping rate, and I factor that into my pricing. So that's how I do it. If I didn't do it that way, I would probably do it the same way as you. You know, flat rate priority is probably going to be the best way.
Okay, we have another question, actually from my wife, that we didn't think of this one when we were talking between ourselves for the questions. Do you have a special site for hard to find and rare games?
I don't. I source everything thrifting. So I have found the first edition Life. I've found pretty rare Monopolies, vintage mousetraps like the 80s versions, all thrifting. So I don't really have a special site that I go to source. If I need information, Board Game Geek is really good. If I need to find out how many pieces are in a game and I don't have, the instructions on hand. So, Board Game Geek would be a good resource for information. They do sell through Board Game Geek, but it's, you're not going to find prices worthy to flip. So.
Okay, we have another question. We have a question from Thrifty Treasures, aka Tanya. She wants to know, do you sell a lot of games via FBA?
Yeah, I mean, nearly 100% of my games. And a common misconception about Amazon is everything has to be brand new, which it doesn't. You can sell used and collectible games on Amazon under the collectible condition. And then just choose your, from like new to acceptable. There's all sorts of guidelines on, where to grade your games. The only really thing that I do is a game is collectible if it's not the current version of that game. So a game like Guess Who comes out every year, and every year they change the date on that box. Guess what? That previous year is now a collectible version.
Well, you just answered Nellie's question about so they are brand new games.
Very little or new.
Jerry Best wants to know, is there more profit piecing the games out?
Sometimes, yes. I generally don't piece games out because on if it's going to sell a game piece, then I'd much rather just buy the piece that I need to complete and ship it into Amazon and sell the whole game.
Okay. Well, then, Yard Sale Hunter want to know, if you are missing pieces, do you buy the replacement on eBay or piece it out?
9 times out of 10, actually, so far 10 times out of 10, I will buy the piece. I don't always buy the piece on eBay, though. Some manufacturers, you can contact them and buy them direct, and it's cheaper.
Okay. Before I go into any more questions that are in the chat, I'm going to ask one of mine. Do you get requests to find particular games? Like where you have a buyer that buys them all the time and
not yet. On Amazon, it's pretty anonymous. The buyer knows who they're buying from, but I don't really contact the buyers that much through that service because I'm on FBA. So Amazon, any kind of returns or anything like that, Amazon handles all that. So I don't really have the opportunity to converse with people about that kind of thing. On eBay, it just hasn't come up yet. Mostly what I sell on eBay is the stuff that's been sitting too long on Amazon. So it hasn't really come up.
Okay, I don't know if you've used this site. My wife wanted to know, can you find spare instructions on Board Game Geek? I guess that's a site.
Yes. For most games you can. It just depends on if a user has uploaded the instructions for that game. But yeah, that is a good resource for instructions. If it's a more current game, you could probably go to Parker Brothers or Hasbro or any other board game maker, Milton Bradley, and go to their website and see and download instructions from there as well.
Ted wants to know, what is the ratio of games being incomplete at yard sales and thrift stores?
It's probably 85 to 90% complete, We don't typically have an issue with incomplete games, although I say that, but I'm staring into my living room now, and I've got 3 bookcases and a pile on the floor of incomplete games. So what I do is I save my incomplete games. If I should happen to buy another game that's not complete as well, then I'll pick my own stock.
Okay. Theater Knight wants to know, and it was one of my questions, so good thing I'm thinking what my viewers would. What is the highest amount you sold a board game for, and what was it?
Oh, there's a game called Acquire. Sold that a couple of times for about 120. I'm sorry, I sold that once for 120. I've got it up on FBA now for 199. So that's probably the highest profit game. I've got a game right now I'm waiting to find a piece for. It's called Forbidden Bridge. That's another $149 game. I found, can't remember the name of the game, but it's a game having to do with law, for law students. I sold that one for about 100. The original Game of Life, I found that new in box. I sold that for north of 100. So quite a few games in that $100 to $200 range. Haven't really hit the massive home run above that. So.
Okay. Another question from Chad wants to know: are you allowed to list used games on Amazon even if they aren't out of print or collectible?
People do. I don't usually find games that are current year used, but I do see other games on there that are used. So.
Okay. Another question from my wife is: do you sell local, like actually give out your business card so others in your city can buy from you?
I don't. I used to have a thrift store here locally, and so of course then I was handing out cards like crazy and trying to get people to the store. But now that I'm 100% online, I just sell online.
Okay. Well, since another question I have, and I'll get to a couple of the other ones asked in a bit. How do you find DVD board games to do, such as scenic games and the like of those, or even the older VCR games where you had to use the VCR to actually play a game?
You have to find the right niche. Scenics that are just standard scenic games, I don't buy. They don't do very well for me at all. If you can find a niche like Harry Potter scenics do okay. Friends, the TV show Friends, their version of scenics really well. And Seinfeld, those you kind of have to scan each time because they go way up and way down. But, you know, as long as you find that niche, then you should be okay selling it. I just wouldn't pick up just, you know, random scenics and expect to get top dollar for them. As far as VCR games go, it's the same kind of thing. I sold a VCR game called Doorways to Horror, which seemed like a pretty cool game. I couldn't play it because I got little kids. So, but that game we sold for about $50. So, but it's the same kind of thing. If you find a game that's got a niche, then you should do pretty well with it.
We have another question from Chad. He says, I always reseal my game pieces. Do you think that is a good idea or not?
Resealing game pieces. We do baggy up our game pieces a lot of times. So I would say, you know, just for presentation, yeah, go ahead and do it. You know, we used to send in games and not have things contained, and a few feedbacks from Amazon buyers would just say, hey, the game was complete, but it was a mess. So we kind of changed up our presentation after getting one or two of those feedbacks. So now we do baggy up every game. And I would say just, you know, because they're going to be thrown around both by UPS or by Amazon themselves. So just, it's always better to have your game pieces contained.
Well, I'm seeing some people are having lagging issues. I'm sorry you're having issues, and apparently Tom George is not able to see the video itself.
Huh.
So I don't know what, I don't have any answers to help you, Tom. I'm hoping you're at least hearing it so maybe you can learn something, or if you have to, watch it again on a replay. And I appreciate you at least trying to be here live. Tim Dittmeyer wants to know, what is the typical price one should purchase a board game for, used set, that would make it profitable if selling them on, excuse me, eBay?
Prices differ a lot from eBay to Amazon. I get quite a bit more money for my board games on Amazon. I try not to invest more than $2 to $3 for any of my everyday kind of bread and butter board games, like your Balderdash, your Categories, different games. And in a thrift store, you shouldn't find prices too much higher than that. I would say not more than $5 or $6 unless you're getting into something really, really special like that game Acquire, or older Monopolies, or older Game of Life. You know, but always check. That's all I could say is, you know, what we say today, next week is going to be totally different. You know, so that's why, even though I know the board games, I can give a rough value, but I'm always scanning, just because I don't like to know what it's going for right at that moment, because it can be, you know, way up here or way down here. So
Especially depending on how long you have a game for. Like we were talking about a couple of games that I have
yep.
on eBay for $15 plus shipping. Granted, it's a
yeah, I mean, for a brand new game,
but there's some people that I've had it for like a year now. So I actually stopped Chad from buying one. He was doing a live hangout where he was actually in the thrift store, and he's like, "What about this sealed game?" I'm like, "Don't get it! Don't get it!"
Right. Yeah, it's, I mean, $15 for those games that you have plus shipping is not an unreasonable price. I'm not sure why they're not selling without looking at the listing, but
after the show or during the week, I'll send you a link to one of the games and stuff like that. Because even one of the games I have is called Senior Moments.
Okay.
So, and that's still,
I know that game. Yeah, Senior Moments. I had one of those probably 6 months ago on FBA, and I sat on it for about 2 months, but it sold. I think I got between $15 and $20 for it. So
yeah, I think I got it at like about the $15 mark myself still, but
yeah,
I mean, lowered on eBay. I don't know. I don't do Amazon FBA, and I used to do Amazon Merchant Fulfilled, but nothing was.
right.
They were on there, and they weren't moving either. So
Huh.
I said, okay, I'm gonna stick with eBay for now and see if I can get my stuff moving and get money coming in that way instead of sitting there dual listing.
Right.
Okay, Berta Bell wants to know: have you had Amazon refuse any of the games you've sent in?
I haven't had Amazon outright refuse. We are picky with what we send in, though. You know, because we are trying to build a brand a little bit on these selling platforms. So, you know, we're not just sending in any game. You know, if they have really rough corners, really, you know, the whole box is dented in, you know, we'll just throw those in the safe pile. When a nicer box comes in, we'll just swap them out. So, You know, we're not sending in games that we wouldn't be proud to sell.
We have another question from Dana Knight. On a used board game, is it better to list as collectible or used? Is a sealed old game as collectible or new?
Always list new if you have the option. If it's sealed, list it new. That's going to get you the most money. On Amazon, I don't know of any sellers that can list games in used condition. Amazon reserves the used category for themselves. So every seller that I've seen has listed in collectible condition. So, you know, I don't, with video games, I list used because collectible video games don't seem to get as much traffic as the used side. So, but that's because that's where all the sellers are in used. So in board games, everybody's in collectibles, so that's where I can list. It doesn't even give me an option to list in used.
Okay. Question from Tanya. I'm going to combine the two that she has. She says, do you polybag the whole board game or like saran wrap?
We don't polybag or saran wrap or shrink wrap our games yet. We're going to look into doing that in the future, but as of right now, we do not. Some games we do polybag, I should say. So the higher priced games will go in a polybag, but we don't shrink wrap. And the everyday, you know, $12 to $20 profit games, we don't. We just send in as is with the game pieces contained, and some sticky tabs or even Scotch tape. So,
Denise, New Jersey wants to know: do you get a lot of games returned on Amazon? Amazon clientele seem a little fickle.
My last payout, I had $9 in returns. So no, they don't come back very often. On Amazon, what I get returned a lot is electronics. So board games don't come back that often. We do take pictures of all of our games. We take a picture of the box, and then my wife sets up the game contents so you can see everything that's in the game. Takes a picture of that. And so when you're on Amazon and you're going to the actual listing page, you can see our pictures of what they're going to get. And we do delete our listings when they sell. After, you know, we'll wait about 2 weeks and then we'll delete those listings, and then we set up brand new listings fresh for everything. So there's fresh descriptions, fresh pictures. We don't go back to Amazon and use our old listings to list the new game, but the same game. You know, we do start everything fresh.
I think you answered this question earlier. My wife wants to know: if you buy a game and it turns out to be missing one piece, do you sell as is, part it out, or redonate?
All of the above. It really depends. We do buy pieces. If there's not enough value for us to buy a piece and still resell at a profit, then we hang on to the game till we get a piece. Or if we've held on to the game for, let's say, 6 months and it's only going to garner us a $15 profit, then it goes back to donate.
Okay. Cherry Johnson wanted to say, great show. Love Jim's videos. So I'm sure she's just one of your subscribers.
Yep.
And I'm not sure who Tanya's asking, but she wants to know, what do you do? Rubber bands? So I guess when you say you don't use plastic bags or anything like that.
For game pieces, we do baggy them up. And we try not to use rubber bands, especially with cards, because they will create a crease. And if somebody is buying to collect and not buying to play, you know, they may not like that their cards are creased. when we're shipping in to enclose the boxes, we use either the round sticky tabs that will peel off or Scotch tape.
Okay. Sorry about that. Chad told me to check my message, so I did, but I got what it was actually about. But let's see. See if there's any more questions before I go into mine. Chad, wait, let's see. There's the rubber band one. Okay. Neil Sullivan wants to know what games are the best to part out.
Harry Potter Seen It pawns get a lot. Anything Star Wars, their pawns and pieces are going to do well. Any high dollar game, like I mentioned, Acquire, their pieces are going to do well. There's a vintage Milton Bradley game called Hotels, which is sort of the same as Monopoly a little bit, except you're actually building hotels. So it's a 3D game. Those game pieces are going to do well because there's such a limited market on them that people can't find it, so they're willing to pay $20 for that piece. So the Game of Life, if you're missing buildings, then part out the other buildings. And I mean, Seen It pawns do well if they're, and it all depends on the niche too. So.
Well, I have a game that I think we have one card actually missing from. I think it's a 1970 game. I still haven't listed any parts of it because we haven't figured out if we're going to buy a piece or not. It's the Billionaire Club, Billionaires, or Billionaire from the Parkus Brothers.
Okay, yeah. I would say you probably want to get a piece rather than part it out.
On eBay, but we couldn't find it, so it's kind of hard to find one piece for that one card to fill a game,
right.
The whole game.
Yeah, you definitely want to hold out for that card. Keep your eye out on eBay to see if that card comes up, because to part it out, you won't make as much as having that whole game.
Okay, Chad wanted to know, is there games you won't mess with, like the Ouija boards?
I've sold plenty of Ouija boards. I'm not afraid to sell anything. Any subject matter. I've sold games, games for couples. I've sold those. It doesn't really matter. There's no shame in my game.
Berta Bell wants to know, when you are selling a rare Monopoly game like Metallica Rare Monopoly, what kind of keywords do you recommend?
On eBay, really just, I mean, if you've got a Metallica Monopoly, that alone should be enough. Maybe mention some song titles. I think their properties are different.
Yeah, I mean, what the properties are, if they're songs, you can actually use
right.
The songs.
Yeah.
This part is part of whatever color. Now they can't yell at you for using the song per se because it's part of the game. You actually specifying where it is in the board. So if they look on the back and they see the picture of where it is, if you have a picture in the back.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I would just Metallica Monopoly should be enough. There's plenty of people tracking that game. They'll want to buy it. So.
Okay, Dana Knight says she sold the game Disorderly Conduct sealed new for about $100. She found it at Goodwill for $2.99, and she just sent in a new sealed categories to Amazon and should bring good money. Is Disorderly Conduct the game you mentioned earlier?
Yes, it is. That's the game that I couldn't think of. It's a good game. You might sit on it for a little bit, but or actually you just said that you just sold it. So that's a great find.
Tanya says, Last time I was just looking up a game to sell, and looks like I will be your competition.
Uh-oh. Watch out.
There's no competition among friends.
That's true. All the best. Actually, on eBay, what I sell is my Amazon stuff that just isn't moving. So I bottom dollar it and just blow it out. So.
Okay. What is the oldest game you've sold in a year?
I sold a 1945 Monopoly would be the oldest game. In the thrifts, you don't come across too many of the really, from 40s and before. You don't really find those thrifting. Flea markets maybe, but my flea markets around here are all they're all resellers trying to get top dollar. So it's tough for me to buy to flip at flea markets. So yeah, that 1945 Monopoly was the oldest game, and it was actually complete when I bought it from a thrift store. So I didn't have to sit on it or add anything to it. So.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to answer your question. Yes, his link is already down below in the description. So, and Berta wants to know, how long do you expect one of those rare games to sell?
Rare games sell quick because there's people that are tracking. And when I say tracking, if you go to camelcamelcamel.com, that's a website that basically gives you tons of information, graphs on Amazon listings, and they have this where their subscribers can track games, any items. So on the rare games, you do have those that track those games, and there's, I'm sure, 100 other services for multiple platforms that do the same thing, and they're all tracking these games and any item really that as soon as it comes on the market, they get an email and they're rushing to buy it. So the rare games I don't typically have a problem selling.
Okay, she wanted to know, Tanya, you don't have to answer this on the air if you don't want to. I'm sure you can. I'll give you her name, or she can find you on Facebook for your answer. Though, are you the Super Fun Emporium?
Yes, Super Happy Wonder Fun Emporium is the registered legal name of my business. So yes, that is me.
And my wife wants to know, is there a game you covet that you have been looking for?
Really, the game that any gamer wants to own is the first edition Monopoly. That's kind of the first game that was mass produced, all over the country. So before that, games were more regional. You'd have like, I can't even think of a game older than that, but like a group of states would have this version of a game, and you move a few states over and they've never heard of it before. But once mass transit came in, and was that first game that Charles Barrows sold to Milton Bradley, and they took it nationwide. So if I could find a first edition Milton Bradley, that would be kind of my holy grail. And my double holy grail would be like an original Charles Barrow, which there's only like 20 of them. So I don't know if I'm ever going to find that.
Anna Knight wants to know, do you find your collectible games sell better during the fourth quarter on Amazon or mainly new games?
In the fourth quarter, everything goes. So yeah, definitely. I have trouble keeping my stock afloat in the fourth quarter. Doesn't matter if it's new collectible, it all sells, and it sells fast.
Okay. My next question was, last year they had the pie face craze. Did you get into it?
I did not, because I don't retail arbitrage. I don't online arbitrage. I am 100% thrift, yard sales, we do hit the flea market, every other week or so, and that's it. So I see the pie in the face game now, and now they're going for like $12 new in the box. So that's why I get into buying loads and loads, 50 to 100 games, and then wait for fourth quarter to sell it, because I don't want to risk carrying that inventory into first quarter and watching my profits drop. So I'd much rather sell the used collectible games.
Okay. Well, while I'm waiting for any more questions, do certain types of educational games sell better than normal Monopoly type of games? Like, are there any popular educational games?
There are. Educational games are one of my favorite genres to pick up. Anything kid related, anything mental disabilities related. Discovery Toys is a good brand. Lauri, which is spelled Lauri, is a good brand. Ravensburger, they do puzzles and games. They're a good brand. Educational Insights is a great brand. So yeah, I love picking up those games. And what's great about educational brands is the manufacturers are more interested in their cause than they are in making a profit. So if you're missing pieces, contact them and they will send you out a piece, typically for free.
Okay, and in your experience, if you can guess, what is the average age of a game board buyer?
That's a great question. I would say probably anywhere from 25 years old when you're getting into like the specialty, like the Dungeons and Dragons games, any role-playing game. They're typically in that 25 to 45 range. Anybody that's looking for like 70s, 60s games, they're typically remembering something from their childhood, so they're going to be in that 45 to 65 range. So it really runs the gamut depending on the genre. So it just all depends on which game you have. And then of course you've got those parents and grandparents that are buying for their kids and grandkids. So it's everybody's birthday. There's always somebody selling a birthday. So that's why I love selling toys and games, because there's millions of people, they got to buy their games somewhere.
Okay, we have a question here from Dana Knight. She wants to know, have you got into a Goodwill and a child is playing with a hot game, throwing cards around and cringe?
All the time. I can't stand that. I'm walking into a Goodwill or any thrift store and there's cards everywhere. And just, you could tell, I mean, the kids don't even have to be there actually doing, throwing the pieces around while I'm there. I cringe when I walk into the game section, the game aisle, whatever, and just see, Star Wars Monopoly pieces on this shelf and money over here and, little red and green house everywhere. Like, I'm just, like that's $75 all over the floor. What the heck is going on? Like, but I mean, there's nothing you can do about it. So you just kind of just move on. Just keep going.
And Bernabelle wants to know, what is the difference in the Monopoly and the Monopoly games? Yeah,
Monopoly licensed out their name to Late for the Sky Games and USA Opoly Games. So they're not made by Milton Bradley. That doesn't mean that you can't get anything for them. We've actually got Catopoly in Amazon. Last week we sent it in, and that's a $75 game used. So just because they're not made by Milton Bradley doesn't mean that they can't bring in money. But the difference is Monopoly is going to be Milton Bradley. Anything that's blank Opoly, like Berkeley, Horseopoly, NC Stateopoly, Illinoisopoly. That's all not Milton Bradley, but they can still bring in money.
Okay. Dana wants to know again. No. Have you tried any other websites to sell games like Etsy, Craigslist?
Our Craigslist around here is absolutely dead. Raleigh Durham area used to be big for Craigslist. When I had a thrift store, Craigslist was my knight in shining armor many months for having to sell a bedroom set to pay my store rent. So I'd throw it up on Craigslist, and within a few hours somebody would be by the store buying it. Now there had been a rash of robberies, assaults, all linked to Craigslist. Somebody responding to a Craigslist ad and coming in and robbing them, or vice versa. So Craigslist on here is absolutely dead. So I don't source on it. I don't list on it. Etsy is something that I'd like to get into. I was in Etsy when I had the thrift store, and I wanted to move like my older dishes and stuff. I used Etsy, and it worked out pretty well. But yeah, I haven't gotten in there with games yet, just because eBay and Amazon is keeping me plenty busy.
Okay. Joni Kramer says Monopoly will also be Parker Brothers or Hasbro. The vintage Monopoly is Parker Brothers, Salem, Massachusetts.
Sorry, yeah, Parker Brothers is what I meant. I said Milton Bradley, but Parker Brothers is what I meant. And you want to look for the old swirl logo. If you look at the Parker Brothers now, and compare it to their vintage logo had a swirl, so that's what you want to look for. That's how you know you've got a vintage game.
Okay. Denise, New Jersey wants to know, when pricing a game, are you influenced by others' pricing, or do you charge just what you want and wait until the lower price games sell out?
I'm a churn and burn guy, so I always look at what others are selling for. Even though I could get something for a game if I waited 6 months, let's say I could get $50 for a game if I sit and wait. If I can get $50 for it and I only paid $5, I'd rather just take the 30 and run. I'm not gonna list high and wait. So there's plenty of inventory around where I don't really have to do that.
Right. Berta Bell wants to know, do you sell the little pet shop stuff as well?
I don't. I've come across a couple of lots, and I don't have the time to sit there and look at every single one. There's so many of them that it's so tough for me to kind of keep track of all those pieces, and I have no previous knowledge of it, so it's really tough for me to take the time to learn all those different cats and dogs and stuff. I actually did take the time I think I got 5 pieces that was in a board game that I just had 5 pieces in there. And I went on a website to research them, and there was over, I think, 5,000. So I couldn't sit there and go through all them, trying to match up the pictures and look up serial numbers and stuff. It takes up way too much time for me now. Doesn't mean that I won't get into them later, but for right now, I'm not.
Now, we know you normally do completed games. Have you ever thought of, especially with the history with Monopoly, getting rid of the dog type of thing? Have you thought of actually selling the individual dogs or the ones that they got rid of to get money out of it?
We've discussed it. We've got so many games here now, it's starting to encroach in our living space. So we've discussed it, my wife and I, about putting up pieces on eBay to see if it sells. Of course, on Amazon, you can't sell pieces. So it would be all eBay. And I don't know. I've got my own eBay stuff to list, other than, I sell clothes and other, collectibles and oddities on there as well. So I just haven't gotten around to kind of picking out which game pieces are going to sell the best, just because I'm holding out hope that I'm going to get that get that piece. So
Dana Knight wants to know, do you sell any good playing card sets?
Cards. Do you mean like decks of cards, or do you mean like old maids, Millie Bourne, things like that? If you're talking,
I think she means.
If you're talking,
Go ahead. I think she's talking about actual playing cards. Like
I have sold. Yep. I have sold. I found a deck of cards from the 1950 North Carolina Farmers Cotillion or something like that. And Louis Armstrong played at that event. So those old decks of cards used to come in bake-like cases, card cases. So if you find those, you do really well. And anything with advertising back then, old, Gas and Oil used to have decks of cards. Anything you could think of, travel, banking, all that. Your deck you probably won't do as well unless it's from like a Vegas casino or something. But if you can find a deck of cards with the original bake-like case, those are usually pretty good sellers.
And I want to say, Dana, if you actually look at, I don't even know how long ago we had a show on about Etsy. A lot of the sellers sell playing decks of cards on Etsy for crafts. So you might want to look into that section as well. So I've actually added my questions, and I'm not seeing any more questions. So while we're waiting for any more potential questions, do you have any questions for me?
Yeah, I haven't really peeked at your eBay. What do you like to sell?
A little bit of everything, whatever I can try to make money on.
Okay.
I don't have any niches. Like I said, I have a couple of board games. I have clothes. I have patterns. I also have mugs. So it's like I said, it's has my store name. And if you, I'll show you the link later, and I'll let you understand. Maybe you'll understand my store name better.
Yeah.
But I don't want to give out my store. I don't give out the name of my store on the air either. So.
Sure. Yeah, I've thought about getting into like old sewing patterns and stuff. I think that's more for my wife to to go through those boxes. So I don't know. I got to sell what I like,
Oh, Bernard wants to know how my patterns have been selling. They haven't been selling too well because they're still the old listings where for everybody that has an external disk drive, be careful. I had worked on doing at least 20 pattern pictures, and all of a sudden when I went to go to list them, the external drive got unplugged somehow not from the back of the computer, but from the back of the external drive itself. And my wife is now trying to hopefully save everything, because it wasn't just business pictures, there was personal pictures, there were a lot of different things on it. So if you use external drives, be very careful on how you're handling it. So I had about 20 pictures done. Actually, I got one bunch up in a Facebook group that I'm trying to sell. They haven't sold yet, so. But I got a whole another box to go through, so.
Wow.
And as Roxy answered, the wife answered, she's just getting back into the fray since surgery, so sales have been crawling. Because after her surgery, I put everything on in my store, basically got good till canceled, figuring if we get a sale while she's recuperating up, even if I get one or two listings up every once in a great while, at least I get in sales, and it's not like I have to worry about hitting relist. It's automatic.
Right.
So, well, I don't see any more questions for you. I want to thank you very much for being on. I know it wasn't necessarily a last minute request, but I happened to see you, what was it, Thursday? I sent the message to you.
Yes. Yeah, it's been less than a week. Yeah.
So I have no plans for next week yet for a show. So surprise guest if I find one. If not, we'll see. I'll see what I can pull out of my butt this time. That time. Well, I don't know if you, like I said, you caught some of the older shows, Jim. When I first started the show, I would have guests planned almost 2 months in advance, right down to date.
Oh wow.
Okay, I have this date available. I have this date available. Is this date available for you? Type of thing. So that way, everybody would know where they're at, what time we start. I wouldn't have to be running around chasing everybody. But now, because like I said, the computers crash I had and stuff like that, I haven't got back into that rhythm yet. I'm slowly getting into it on the Sunday night show. Everybody that wants to know, Jim has agreed to be a guest on the Sunday Night My Life series. So
yes,
keep an eye out for that one. So
yeah, that'll be fun because I'll explain to you how I went from corporate living to reselling. So.
Oh, let's see you, Mr. Tie Boy. And let's see if there's any more questions. Oh wait, Dana Knight asked if do you flip from eBay to Amazon? Sorry about that, Dana. I almost missed that one.
I don't go from eBay to Amazon. I do check out game prices on eBay to see if I can buy them to send into FBA from time to time, but typically with shipping costs, that puts me out of the flipping to FBA. It's much easier to go from FBA to eBay. So that's what I do.
Okay, and now just so you know, he's not coming on this Sunday. He has agreed to come on in a future Sunday show. This Sunday, I'm gonna have Dustin Saunders on. So there's the plug for this Sunday.
Yeah.
And with all that being said, I don't know if there's any interest in an after show. Jim, are you willing to stay for a little bit extra after, if anybody wants to pop in?
Yeah, sure.
All right, so we'll have a little bit of a hangout after show. If you're interested, I'll post a link in the description chat. Hopefully, it won't send everybody to a different link like it did the last time. And we'll see you soon.
All right. Thanks for having me on.